all living in a world gone geek. It's time to geek hard or go home. The podcast is real. Here's your host, Grounded Geek.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to World Gone Geeks. The podcast is real. It's another great Sunday night. I hope you're having a wonderful week. It's the end of the week, and we're going into a very exciting week coming up. It is, I've changed the colors of my background today to celebrate the holidays, and hopefully you guys will get a chance to do that. Whatever holiday you celebrate, we'll be able to do that with your family and friends in this coming week. We're in Cleveland. We had a peppering of snow this morning, so it feels a little bit like the holiday season, at least in Ohio. People are in Florida are like, what is that? But yeah, we're getting ready to very excited about the holiday season. I'm even wearing my Nakatomi Plaza t-shirt, which is a very Christmassy t-shirt, I've decided. So there it is. Let me bring on my good friends. Here's Aaliyah. Hey, Aaliyah, what's going on? And Utah has arrived. What's up, man?
Greetings, programs. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to figure out where these parts go in this glove.
Right. So at the beginning of the show, we have determined is Utah's gadget segment. And because every time I bring him up on camera, for those of you listening to the podcast, he has got some sort of new gadget or collectible that he has purchased. And today he is sporting Iron Man's Infinity Glove, but it's missing a stone, it looks like.
I just found it. These things are really tiny and easy to misplace. Let me just stick this back. I guess it goes over here. Oh, there we go. Hey.
Look at that. It lights up when you put the final stone in there. Oh, that sounded dangerous.
That felt interesting. Yeah, I'm like Baker Mayfield. I feel dangerous.
Yeah, you're probably feeling a little...
That's a
little foolish right now, since almost the entire Browns team is down with COVID this week.
That's right,
and didn't play today. Are you going to snap for us? Let's see what happens.
I don't know. I don't know how this works. Am I supposed to like go this way and go? I am Iron Man. Yeah, I got to work on that.
All right.
Oh,
did that do it?
There we go.
Thanos is gone.
I'll figure it. And now everybody's happy.
Yeah, everybody's back. Thanos is gone. We're all good.
It's all good.
I guess
we just have to clean up.
During that time, Aaliyah and I were snapped away. I realized that because you were in there, and then we came back when you snapped.
We did.
That was I got to say that was kind of cool what they did in Hawkeye with the whole blip thing.
Right. That was the first time we've seen it like that
from that perspective.
I don't want to spoil exactly what happened, but we actually got to see someone from when they were blipped to the moment they returned blipped, what that looked like for them, which is kind of mind-blowing. So if you're not watching the Hawkeye miniseries, you got to see it. It's really, really cool. And they just dropped a bombshell at the end of this last episode of a character.
And I have so many questions.
That
kind
is
of a big one.
That is in the MCU confirmed now. So very exciting.
But what comes next? Who are we going to see?
Let's not get the WandaVision, speculators all back up again.
Not the bees.
We're already dealing with the speculators for Spider-Man and No Way Home.
I still have to see
I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. I got to see it Friday, so I'm not going to say anything, obviously. But other than the fact that it's fantastic. It was just a lot of fun. So
I haven't heard anything bad about it yet.
Yeah, I haven't either. And I can't, I could if I really wanted to think about it. There's some things that felt a little off, whatever. Overall, though, this is just a blast. This is what going to the movies for these blockbusters is supposed to feel like. And it was great. It was really great.
Yeah, 95% on Rotten Tomatoes. So
yeah,
that's good. All right.
It's funny how many big movies are coming out right now. This week we're also getting Matrix Resurrections, the fourth Matrix movie.
I'll get to watch that because it's on HBO Max.
Same. So me and Aaron have been binging through the Matrix movies.
Did you skip the third one?
We haven't seen it yet. We watched the first two, and now we got to watch the third one.
Just skip the third.
I didn't see the third one. I watched the first two.
So the thing is, maybe we have to see the third one to understand something in the fourth one. But you're right. The third one is not. They get increasingly less coherent as they go.
Right. Maybe that was by design. Who knows?
But they get increasingly more action packed as they go. It's like it's bittersweet, because the second movie, we're watching it again, and I remember watching Reloaded and at the end being like, what just happened? But then when on a rewatch, I'm like, okay, this has some of the most fun, cool action. It was they certainly upped it from the last one.
Right,
I'm giving them credit.
Right?
I'm giving them props. This was a lot of fun, even though the plot just took a weird turn that doesn't make any sense. And then in the third one, so I had a great theory. I believe we talked about it back in the day when it first came out, but I had a great theory for what happens I'm not spoiling Matrix 2, right? This is
no, it's been
statute
out.
of limitations is over on this.
It's been out for decades.
So at the end, Keanu and his buddies are back in the real world running from the squiddies, right? And their ship is disabled, so they have to get out. And they're running along, and then all of a sudden Keanu's like, something's different. And he turns around, and the squiddies are almost upon them, and he raises his hand, and they stop. And then they fall, and you're like, what?
Right. The big revelation is now he has that kind of power in the real world.
Right. You've made air quotes because there's a podcast version of this. Don't forget. I have to let people know. But
yes,
I was convinced. I am based on everything the architect just told him, right? About the fact that we have this pattern of we follow this repetition, and there's been like five different ones before you, and you're going to make the same decision,
right?
I thought he said there was 5. I thought that he was the 6th.
Well, now that you guys are talking about this, I don't think I've watched the second one.
Well, here's the thing, though. The whole point was that they started all over again. Yeah. And again, it was the illusion of revolting that was keeping them subdued. So my thought was, oh my gosh, they haven't left the Matrix. It's a Matrix within a Matrix this whole time. Like, that would have been like, seriously, again, because the whole point is to make them think they're accomplishing something, so they'll keep Matrix doing Inception. That. Exactly. And I was like, that would have been perfect. But no, he has the powers in the real world somehow, and Smith can walk around in the real world somehow, and it just got weird.
Right, because didn't Smith infect like an actual person in the real world, right?
Again, which would have worked if they're still in the Matrix.
If it was another Matrix.
But maybe this movie, maybe this movie will somehow, because I won't spoil the third one, but how are certain people in this movie that shouldn't be?
Correct.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Correct.
So I don't know. Maybe they're gonna go back the way, like, what was it? X-Men Days of Future Past went back and kind of retconned the third one. Everyone hated. Yeah, and they like brought everybody back to life, which is exactly what they should have never killed him in the first place. Maybe they're going to do that in the fourth one. Who knows? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. But they're entertaining movies, right?
Yeah.
They're entertaining. They're just they get increasingly less coherent. Yeah, the action was over. I mean the effects for the time were amazing.
Right.
I have certain things for when I'm on my Christmas break, like certain movies that I want to watch. Die Hard is one of them.
Yeah,
it's a Christmas movie. You have to watch that. Yeah,
you have to watch it at Christmas.
And then definitely The Matrix. I have to watch The Matrix, like the second one, because now I feel like I don't think I watched it. I thought I watched it, but I don't think I did.
Well, maybe
Jeff
you
was
did
explaining all of these things happening, and I'm like, am I in The Matrix?
Well, see,
it's just probably been a while ago.
Yeah, you just watched it in The Matrix, but not in the real world.
Oh, okay.
So actually, there was a glitch, and the program the programs changed things, and that's why.
And
so just a moment ago, when you said you'd seen it, you were having deja vu,
right? Which is a glitch in the system.
They changed something in the system, and you actually haven't seen it, or now you haven't because they changed they want
right.
You to see
that means there's a glitch in the system.
Oh, okay. Like whenever they. Like in the real world, whenever they change a word, or what is that? Like the Bernstein Bears, and then they changed it to the
Mandela effect, all that stuff. It's because they had to change something, right?
That's why that's there's a glitch in the system.
For some reason, they had to change something.
Everyone, there's thousands of people that remember it this way, and then somehow they're trying to convince.
They were in the the 3.2 3.2 version of the Matrix. Now we're in the 3.3 version, and some of those people are still around. Some of the residual programming is still, I don't know. Oh my gosh, this is getting less coherent than the movies. So let's just
right. That means there was a glitch in the system.
He's just gonna keep going, aren't you? So anyway, yeah, Christmas is coming up. Lots of other holidays. Whatever it is you're celebrating, we're glad that you decided to spend tonight with us. And I was just, like I said, I'm wearing my Nakatomi Plaza.
I love that. I noticed that. Very nice.
It just showed up. So I got two t-shirts from work. My manager at work offered we could pick these t-shirts or whatever. This is the other one that I got.
Ooh,
I have a bad feeling about this in Star Wars.
Is that from something?
Excellent. That's from Star Wars.
Yes, it is from something that we're going to make you watch soon.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen the Goonies yet, so don't come for me.
All right. Well, you've seen
Die Hard, 10 for 10.
You got to watch. That's another one you got to watch here because we're going to record next week, right?
Oh, Goonies. Yes, Goonies.
Yeah. So you got to watch it this week.
Okay. I'm good for that.
Oh, okay. Sooner rather than later. And for those of you wondering why we are talking about watching the Goonies, it's not because it's a Christmas movie. Although maybe we could make a case. Let me think. No, I'm not going to go there. But but again, like I said, this is a holiday season. Not everyone's celebrating Christmas. Maybe for somehow Goonies fits into their reason for this season, and that's their holiday movie. I'm not gonna rain on that parade.
I'm sure that there are pirates celebrating a holiday this season.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, the reason we're talking about that is because We're Going Back is finally coming back. It's finally coming back.
Yeah,
We're Going Back is coming back.
Yeah, We're Going Back.
We're going back to going. We're going back.
Finally going to premiere. We're going to try to ring in the new year with it, so you can join us on January 1st with a new episode of our sister podcast, if you will. It's a film discussion and also a little audio drama narrative type story that will go through all of the episodes as well. So it's kind of fun, and you can check that out. In fact, go ahead and put it in your podcast players right now. Subscribe, follow, whatever it takes in those.
Go back to your podcast players
and those podcast machines.
And subscribe to We're Going Back because We're Going Back.
And you got to subscribe to this one too, because that's how you're going to find out there's new episodes. It's going to let you go. And Derek Mabel, yes, you're right. Goonies is the greatest movie ever. I don't know if it's the greatest movie ever, but I mean that's a valid opinion that I'm not going to step on because it's pretty darn good.
It's a damn good movie.
And Die Hard 10 out of 10. Well, I definitely, everybody knows how I feel about that one.
Wait, Die Hard didn't happen on October 10th. What does he mean?
Okay.
I don't understand.
10 out of 10.
Oh.
Yeah. It is like my all-time favorite movie.
And those Die Hard battery commercials with the original cast, also 10 out of 10.
Good times. All right.
Die Hard battery commercials?
Yeah. You know the Die Hard battery for your car is a brand called Die Hard?
Yeah.
They started doing commercials with
Bruce Willis.
They did commercials with Bruce Willis.
And they got Reginald the driver too.
Yeah.
Did they get
No, Reginald his name was Reginald.
No. They got the limo driver. Did they
you're thinking of Reginald Vell Johnson, who is Al Powell.
Al, right.
Argyle. That's his name.
Right.
Argyle was his driver.
Argyle, that's it.
Yep.
There's only one movie that pops into my head when talking about Bruce Willis, and that is
Hudson Hawk, another great one.
No. What is that?
I will die on that hill. I don't care who you are.
I don't understand
an opinion that movie is terrible, but I will die on the hill that movie is misunderstood.
That movie is so underrated and probably misunderstood.
Aaliyah, tell me the Bruce Willis movie.
No, I was saying this is the second time that you said you're going to die on a hill, and I'm like, so passionate.
There are so many hills that I will die.
Which means there's a glitch in the system.
Well, it's kind of like I will die on the hill that Die Hard is a Christmas movie, right?
Right, but there's another hill.
But I won't die on the hill that Goonies is the greatest movie ever. So is it high up there on my list? Yes. Will I say it's the greatest movie ever and die on that hill? I won't. That's how you do that.
But one hill over is Hudson Hawk is a good movie, and he will die on that hill.
And I will not say it's the best movie ever either, that one, but it's
not nearly.
It's completely misunderstood. Yeah,
entertaining. I can't even.
Yeah.
Anyway, what movie?
Well, I lost it, so I was trying to Google it. The Fifth Element. The Fifth Element. That's literally the only.
That's a good one.
That is another excellent.
That's a good one. That's a very good Bruce Willis movie. But I mean, there's lots of them. Yeah, Multipass. All right, so we're gonna move on. But we're glad again that you're here. We have great guests tonight. We're going to talk about some fun stuff. I just started playing this demo of this game this week. So tonight we have some game developers on the show. These are a group of college students around Columbus that banded together, start their own game development company, and now they're deep into development on this African-based RPG called Zakumba. And I'm going to ask them how to pronounce the other name because I'm not sure. It's Astraia is what I want to say. Mm-hmm. But let's go ahead and meet them. It's the team from Afroduck. Welcome, guys.
Hi.
There they are.
Hello.
All right.
Hello.
So why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves for our podcast audience. Let us know who each of you are.
Yeah. Okay. I guess I should start.
You get to start.
Oh yeah, I'll start. So my name is Kwesi Christian. I am the creative director and founder of Afroduck Studios for Zakumba Astraia. So you said it right, Jeff. You got it on the mark. Absolutely.
Did it.
Yep.
And I'm Nick. I am the lead programmer for the project and a co-founder of the company.
And my name is Neil, and I am the narrative editor.
Very cool. Yeah. Now, in a moment, we're going to find out what all those things mean. So, but one of the things that I love about this show, and I invite people on, sometimes I know Aaliyah feels a little out of place because Utah and I are geeking out about something that she hasn't seen or hasn't done with a guest because we just get into a mode and we're like, oh my gosh. And then we just babble. I don't know anything about game development. So this is good. This is which is great. You want to bring people on who are going to educate you, right? And tell us about stuff that we don't already know. And so I'm very excited, but why don't you give us a little bit of, so Kwesi, I met you, I might have seen a couple of the other of you too. I don't remember, but I met you at the Cleveland Gaming Classic here in Cleveland, which is a convention. Mm-hmm. And you guys have been to several of these, right? To kind of like debut the game and show people kind of what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeff, when we met at the Gaming Classic, I think that was our third convention for like that year. Yeah. And we kind of just threw ourselves into it because we've never been to a convention before. Sure. But it was really, really fun. The Cleveland one was the last one that we went to, and we had a ton of fun. So definitely shout out to Cleveland. Yeah. Definitely want to go back again, show what we've been working on. So yeah.
Fun. And you definitely should come back because actually Utah and Aaliyah don't even know this yet, but I'm actually joining the team that's helping to plan that, and World Gone Geek's going to be a part of it next year.
So
right.
That's going to be so
we don't
cool.
know that.
We may broadcast live.
Surprise.
We may broadcast live. We may, I don't know what we'll do. Maybe we'll broadcast live and then we'll commentate the final round of the Tecmo Bowl championship there that they do.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes. We'll find something to do.
That's what we're going to do.
Yeah, I'm up for color. I'm up for color commentary on the Tecmo Bowl. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, you and I we're Joe Montana Sports Talk football on the Sega Genesis. That was really the one that kind of that was our game back in the day, if you recall. But that's anyway. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about how you guys got started. I've always wondered, like, does somebody have this idea and you went and got your friends and kind of grew from there, or do you get the friends and then you guys come up with the idea? How did it start for you guys?
Oh yeah, it definitely started with the dream. I'm just kidding. No. When we started, I actually had met Nick back in college. We went to OSU Newark. And I met him, just a guy that loved Pokemon. We bonded over Pokemon and we're like, oh my God, do you want to come over to my house and play Pokemon? We're like, absolutely. Yep. So it was was really great, and we lived for like 2 years. And there was a game that we played because we love a lot of RPGs called Lunar Silver Star Story. It's originally on the PS1, and we were just playing it one day. This was like what, our 4th or 5th playthrough, and we were like, it'd be really cool to make a game. And then Nick is like, we could make a game. Do you want to make a game? And I'm like, absolutely, we can do it. And I'm pretty sure that day Nick just went and like changed his major to like game development.
I did.
And then decided like, all right, we're going to make a video game. Like, that's just what we're going to do. The original concept of the idea did come from me. A lot of the story and the narrative aspects are from, my own life, people that I've met, different, stories that I've heard. And I was born in Ghana. So one thing that has always fascinated me has been how cultural, like different cultures that are represented in video games. I never really saw that inside of an African narrative. So I wanted to kind of bring that into the indie game market. I felt like it would be extremely viable and super cool, because I don't think there's a lot of African stories that are told, especially within that representation. So when you're designing a game, usually the best rule of thumb is the story is like the last thing that you make for any solid game. I went the complete opposite way, and I wrote a 200-page like narrative of like, here's what I want the game to be. And Nick took a look at it, and he's like, all right, cool, but what's the game? Like, what do you do on it? And throughout this whole adventure, I've met awesome people like Neil, and the rest of our team who have basically kind of helped shape and build what we've wanted to make, which has been the RPG. And let me tell you, Jeff, good rule of thumb, just a piece of advice: never make an RPG as your first game. It's the worst idea in the entire world. It's not going to be a good time. Make a nice racing game. That one is a bit
that's
easier.
a good one. Yeah, racing game.
They teach us that in college.
Exactly.
What RPGs are one of the hardest games to get up and starting.
Oh yeah.
And of course we decided to go with the hardest one first, I guess.
Absolutely. But that's just because I'm a crazy man, and I want to see this game come through. But honestly, what a lot of people have really liked about our game, not only with the art and the characters, but the story that we're trying to tell, because it is one that I personally feel is really unique. And every single member of my team, I'm sure Neil can definitely testify to this, once they hear my vision for the narrative and the story I'm trying to tell, everybody instantly gets hooked. And then I tell them, here's how much work it's going to be. And they're like, all right, cool, I can spare some time. Let's do it. So yeah, that's cool. Kind of where we've like started and where we've been and started our road in game development. So yeah.
Well, now, how did you guys kind of find the other people that you needed? You mentioned like the art and things like that. That was one of the first things that kind of drew me to your table, right? So when I walked in, I saw that standee of the character. It was really cool. I'm like, oh, what is this? So the art kind of really pulled me in and the style. So how does that come together? Who was the first person that you brought in to kind of do that?
So the very first...
Sorry, go for it, Quetzy.
Oh, I'm sorry, Neil. You know what? I've been talking too much. I'm gonna let you talk. Go for it.
Okay. Well, I was just gonna say, I feel like this is a good time for me to tell the story of how I joined the company, because it kind of fits. So I moved to Ohio from New York, where I'm from, in 2016, and I was getting an English degree, and I saw just like a poster on a bulletin board that was like, do you want to make a video game? And I was like, yes. And it had all these little, poll numbers. You take them down. And so I took one of those and I texted Quessy. And then we sat down to have lunch. And I remember that first day, lunch became dinner because we talked for like 6 hours. And that's kind of been, I would say, and I think this pivots into also a question of like, what does Nick do for the company too? Because I feel like, Nick, sometimes you and I have the same job, but it's just in different fields, which is Quessy comes to us with a dump truck of ideas and just like backs it up into our living room, and then it all pours out into the whole room, and we're like, okay, let's start here, and then we start, organizing and collating and figuring out what's possible and what things go together and stuff, So I take my job is basically to take all of Questy's ideas story-wise and then try to string it together into a narrative that works and is fun and has all the right elements.
Sure that, there's actual gameplay, not just.
Well, I don't care about that.
Yeah,
that's not.
Actually,
Neil doesn't care about
the story guy,
sure,
right? Neil,
building a video game, not a movie.
Yeah, I will be the first to admit I go overboard a little bit. But people like Neil, Nick, on my team, I have like Ellie, I have Rose, like they really help guide the project. These hands can't physically make anything, but they can like direct and say, here's what I want to do. And I think we have a joke now where it's like we have Questy translators because I know what I want, but sometimes I can't get it out. So I'm like A, B, C, and then everyone's like, "Oh, you mean A 1, 2, 3, B 1, 2, 3, C 1, 2, 3." I'm like, "Yes, you got it." And they're like, "Yeah, absolutely." But it does pivot to what you were mentioning, Jeff, about the art. We went through actually quite a bit of artists. Originally, when we were trying to make the game, we were trying to make it 3D. Bad idea. Never do a 3D game as your first game either. It's a lot of work.
You're already in on the RPG, so you may as well just double. In fact, why not do it VR and 3D?
Why not? You just gotta slap it on and then boom. You just
put some smell-o-vision on there and.
It's right. But we had a lot of like good concept art when we first started out. We were trying to decide: do we want to do 3D? Do we want to do 2D, 2.5D, pixel, super shaded, cell shaded? So everybody that joined, I think we've had a total of 5 different art directions that we've like shifted, which is so really cool. And then it turns out, some of the Questy's great at choosing the hardest options. That is correct. So we've basically shifted all the way back to 2D. And it really wasn't until I met our lead character designer. Her name is Yaira. She's the loveliest person you will ever meet. Super nice, super intuitive, astounding artist. And I met her on Instagram, just randomly met her. There was a member on our team who's no longer like part of the team. His name is Austin, and he's like, "Hey, dude, check out this artist. Like, she's really cool. You should like see if maybe she'd want to be interested." So I just messaged Yaira randomly, and I'm like, "Hey, I have this vision for a game, and I want to do this, and I love your art, and I think it could really fit. What do you say?" And Yaira was like, "Give me a couple days to think about it." And then she came back and she said, "I love what you guys are doing with the story. This seems awesome. Yes, let me go be a part of this." And she had already designed like the very first drawing of Astraia, which was like on a notepad. And it just completely set everything in stone for me. It made me realize that this game can happen. And a lot of people are going to have a lot of fun with this character, how she looks, how she behaves. And that's kind of like where we've been just moving through. And then in the game, you'll notice between the concept art versus the in-game art, I met another artist by the name of Ellie, and Ellie is one of the most structured and funny and just like down to earth people I've met. And she heard my entire spiel and she wanted to be part of it to kind of help make the assets. Originally, I wanted her to just go on background, but then she started taking lead and started taking charge and just became our art director, who's been, creating all of the assets in the game. So all the Astraia that you see fighting in combat, that's all Ellie, with support from like the remainder of our artists as well. So that's kind of how we've traversed with the art and really found our art style to make ourselves stand out.
That's awesome. We do have a question from the audience here. And it was, what was some of the inspiration when writing the story? So like when you came up with this story, where did you get some of the inspirations for it?
Yeah. And I think, Neil, you could also probably answer this question too, because we've had so many discussions. For me, the initial idea And I don't know if she's watching, but she'll yell at me later. One of the initial ideas for the story actually came from my own personal family. So my little sister, her name is Teresa, and I kind of wanted to create a narrative that revolved around a young child struggling and trying to find their way throughout, like throughout their lives. And I think the stories about single fathers, especially like single Black fathers, is really interesting because you never really see that dynamic. And a lot of stigma, it's always like, the mother stays and then like the dad leaves or stuff like that. And I wanted to play on the idea of like, the dad is there and doing his best to raise an only daughter, especially when the mother is gone. So I know somebody personally that has been struggling and going through that, and I wanted the persona of a family member that I knew with the story of another dear friend that's been going through it in order to kind of like tell this story. And it's not a tragic story either. It's more about a young girl that has so much opportunity, and even though the world isn't really giving her everything that she needs, she's finding her own path. She's very independent. And I really wanted to tell a story from like an independent Black female, especially young ones, that would be able to like resonate and have an impact. So that's kind of like one of my core visions with it. And a lot of the other parts of the story, and Neil, I'll have you interject here, came from a lot of like different African mythologies that we looked up, and we're trying to inject the culture, especially with philosophy. I can't count how many times Neil and I have gotten super philosophical about certain things. But Neil, I'll let you add some stuff here too.
Well, because that's kind of my jam, is thinking about like, Kwesi will come with the dump truck, right, of ideas of just like this huge world sort of sprawling inside of his head, and then I'm the one who's kind of picking apart. Oh, so we're telling a story about this kind of theme. There's a plot line that you won't see in Astraia, but it makes me think about it. Is two of our other main characters, Zach and Callan, are royalty, and they think that their dad, like many children, they think that their dad is awesome, and then it turns out that their dad is like kind of an evil ruler, and they realize it via interacting with the world. And so it's not just that they're learning, oh, my father is actually just a human being like we all do, but it's attached to this power structure, and so it has these really big stakes. And I was like, well, this is a story about power. This is a story about, can you wield it and be good, or what is it? How do you be both a king and a father at the same time? Stuff like that. But I love thinking about stuff on a thematic level. And so a lot of our conversations, we would, Kwesi would come and we'd have this idea, and we'd be and he would be talking, and I would be at a whiteboard, and I would just be like scrambling to write stuff down, and I'm like drawing lines between stuff, right? We're like hunting down the Unabomber. And I'm making like bulleted lists and stuff.
Strings here.
Exactly. Yeah. And so the game was in that stage, especially in the early stages. None of us really realized that, like, I guess anytime you try to make a game, there's a kind of period where you run on the treadmill a little bit, is what I've learned. That, like, we were just kind of paying our dues. And I think for a long time, it was still really fun in that stage because we had this great story that we were kind of holding on to and trying to develop.
Well, I really just want to say, Kwesi, I love that you made this character a Black independent woman. One of the things that, so I work for a multicultural advertising marketing agency, and my boss had asked me a question: when you see yourself, do you see yourself as a Black woman first, or do you see yourself as just like a strong Black woman, or just a Black woman in general? And there's a lot of there's one characteristic that you always hear with the Black woman, right? That she's strong, but you kind of like took that and put that aside and was just like, yeah, of course she's strong, but I mainly want her to be this independent woman. And I love that. And my question is Neil, you talked about longevity, like how long this process was taking. How long was the conceptual period and until you guys went into that actual development period?
I mean, I met Quessy in 2016.
Yeah.
At least it's for like other people, you know, that might be watching. Yeah. And obviously everybody's story or, you know, his journey is differently, but for you guys.
Because when Quessy and I met and had talked about that idea, as it was mentioned, I went into computer science instead. I was originally a history major because when we first started, we want to build a game. We didn't know how to build a game. We had absolutely no idea, never done it before, no one with any experience. We first tried doing it on RPG Maker, which is a tool that you can use on Steam. It's really cool.
I think we actually had a demo that we made with RPG Maker. It was like less than like a kilobyte.
Yeah, no, like really, it was just small. a little bit of gameplay that we put together to test some things. But I think there was like limitations that we were afraid of. And I knew just looking at the program, like there's going to be some complications too. And as we were building out our, trying to build out a team of people to kind of help us make this game, we were having a hard time finding programmers initially. One of our biggest struggles, but we eventually met someone who really took hold and actually started making, I think, steps into the development, which was Jacob. And Jacob actually kind of was able to put together something, right? Like a bit of a prototype to show what gameplay to expect. But we kind of were getting stuck on this point, and Jacob ended up, you know, for his own personal reasons, had to leave and pursue his other things on the side. So I actually ended up taking over at that point because then, you know, 2 years had passed. I had a lot more experience in programming and game development and took over. But the conceptualization period before then, I would say it was a solid 2 years of us just like, we want to build this game, but how do we even start building a game? We don't know. We'll just draw some pretty pictures and write some good story.
So it was a ton of research. And, you know, I'll always be the first to admit, I know like 10% of what my developers are actually doing until I actually have to say, hey, what are we making right now? Like this specific thing. But that's what's really cool about Afroduck Studios in general. Like the company that we wanted to build revolves around, you know, people that want to make and be creative, but have no idea what we're doing. So we're going to work together and build, you know, this project. So the vision is there. Now we're just, you know, finding our way through it. Like none of us have any training. Like Nick is going to school right now for programming, especially for game design, but that's only just recently. Where we just got has been an accumulation of the experience, the people who've come and go, everything. And it's just been a really, really great journey. You know, anybody that's watching now, if you've ever been part of, you know, the studio, or you've ever like even just like seen what we're doing, like your experiences are what have helped shape, you know, where we are. And it's really just more progressing every day on what we're trying to accomplish. So I know, Neil, you had something you wanted to add to.
Oh, I don't remember it now.
That happens.
And that's how development goes.
I got inspired. I felt like I was watching the speech at the end of Remember the Titans. And then I lost all my thoughts.
You know, Jeff, you asked a question. You're like, you know, what's everybody's actually role? I'm the inspiration director. Like when everybody starts to get bummed out and they're just like getting burned, they come to me. 10 minutes with me, you'll be like, right. You're ready. You're recharged. You're ready to go.
Can like I have that just to I need that for my personal life.
Can you set that up on like Fiverr or something so we can have some sessions with you? Because I feel like
put Quessy on speed dial.
Yeah, that's right. You know what? That's how we're gonna help fund the entire game. Just inspirational quotes from Quessy.
There you go. Absolutely. That's actually brilliant. That's actually brilliant. Yeah.
Does he just say you're the inspiration? That's just have that playing in the background.
How good is your high Chicago voice? Yeah. No. Number one, I love the fact that you guys are, you know, in Columbus and that you named your studios Afroduck. I don't know if everybody knows the story behind it, but I'm assuming that it has to do with Afroduck. And then so I would love to hear the story on why you decided to name it. Was it posthumously? I don't even remember how long ago that happened?
It was 2016 because that's when we filed the LLC. So it's not even like that long of a story. Nick and I were in his Nick's basement, and we were trying to say,
basement? Did you just try to squeeze that in, like Nick's basement?
Yeah. No, I'm just glossing over it, but I see you just caught me. Okay, cool.
I keep down there.
It's an extremely nice basement, honestly.
Dude, all great ideas either start in a garage or a basement. It's one of the two. Now, it was dimly lit. I could barely see my hand. I'm just kidding. No. But it was, we were literally just trying to think of a name for our studio because we wanted to put it under like a name. And I was scrolling through my phone and it had just said like, OSU Afroduck has just died and it's being stuff and blah, blah. And I'm like, Afroduck? Oh, that's sad. That would be a cool name, Afroduck. And then Nick is like, no, that would be a great name. So quickly, we just went to like the domain website. Is Afroduck available? And it was, like $2. And we're like, boom, it's ours.
Yeah, fun.
It's amazing that it was available.
It was available.
Beforehand, we were going with like so many weird names. I think we had like Helix.
We had like Double Helix Studios.
Double Helix. And then we talked about, I think it was something with a, what was it? Panda or something?
Something Panda.
I don't remember.
Panda something.
I don't remember at this point, but there were so many ones we were running through and we just couldn't come up with. We wanted to file an LLC, but we didn't know exactly what the heck to call ourselves. And that just happened upon us and it worked out pretty well.
But it's fun and it's playful and it's like Afroduck. That's a name you'll remember. Like it's like it's just so random. A duck with an afro.
Just for the benefit of, so Utah and I both went to Ohio State also. I didn't graduate from there, but that's where I went for my first 2 years of college. And that's where we met.
That's where I went. That's where I went.
Such
for
a
my
romantic
first
story.
But the rest is history.
The rest is history.
But for those of you who aren't familiar with kind of OSU lore, there's a pond in the middle that we call Mirror Lake that people go and kind of sit around and hang out. And then there's this duck that lived there, and he had didn't he have like a tuft of feathers?
Big tuft of feathers on his head.
Like a little tuft that was like right there, kind of like big tuft right there.
That's actually very good.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Really clever.
This was after my time, obviously, but so I don't know how that came about. That his name was disseminated amongst all the students, but I guess and then so that's an actual duck that passed away. That was sad, but
he was like an unofficial OSU mascot for a while.
Oh yeah. It's still there. They stuffed him.
BGSU squirrel.
Yep. He's over at I think the sports center, so he's still there.
Oh. So they've preserved him.
One of my goals is when our company makes enough money, I am going to go buy that duck from OSU. that is one of my goals. Oh, it absolutely will. I'll say, this is my duck. It has my name on it. Can I have it back?
Oh my God, that is funny.
That's fantastic. We need, and we're going to have you back when that happens.
Yeah, we got to talk to you.
We'll be happy to showcase him.
Yeah, that's how we'll make it. That's
right. When you actually have Afroduck
is when we made it.
Yeah, dude.
It's the goal.
So, is Afroduck Studios all of your full-time jobs, or is this the sort of the dream hobby / side
hustle? Yeah. What?
Yeah.
The latter for sure.
It is definitely the latter. We started, wanting to make an indie game studio because we wanted to design it, but we definitely got to pay the bills. So we have real jobs that are helping support us. Just recently we actually had our crowdfunding campaign to kind of help build our vertical slice.
Oh, right, on Indiegogo, right?
Yeah. So it just ended. And we are now on the trajectory of reaching out to publishers, the people that pay the big bucks in order to get our, game off the ground. We're currently working on our vertical slice, which is kind of just, you would think, a demo. So what you guys see, so right now, hold on, let me backtrack. There is on Steam right now what we call our Zakumba alpha game. It's basically
the prologue demo, right?
Yeah. It's the first iteration of anything that we were able to build. That took us 9 months. Everybody on the team put in about 5 to 10 hours a week, and that's over the course of like that 9-month period. And then we submitted it to the GDEX. If you guys haven't heard that, that's the Game Developers Expo in Columbus. That happens every year. During that time, it was, peak COVID. We were, everything was online. So we submitted it to like GDEX TV. And although we didn't win anything, we came as runner up. So second place for crowd favorite, which actually blew our minds because that's like our rough draft. That's like, hey, we're just trying to put something together to see if our studio can even make something. And we were very successful. From like our end, we learned a lot. We built something. It's there. A lot of people like the idea and the direction. And it just kind of made us think like, okay, we can actually like really keep going if we, hit our nose to the ground and just start grinding it out. So now our next step is actually building a much more polished, much more refined version of what we want the entire full game to be. So when you see that, when that does come in, you'll notice a lot of differences from what we're trying to build. But right now we're still in that hobbyist, working on it when we can, having a pipeline. Everybody on our team is incredible. They understand the situation of, it's volunteering your time, but knowing what our full vision is in order to, build our studio, have a reputation, and actually release a project. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at now.
Wow, that's cool. Amazing.
Yeah, I wondered that myself, like how how in the world, it's got to take forever. And if you've been doing this since 2016, what do you, I mean, I guess anything could change. It depends on obviously if certain funding comes in probably, but what would be kind of like, how long do you think the process will take? Let's say you got funding tomorrow. Like how long does it take now to kind of make this a reality?
I would say, based off of the current development status that we're in right now, to get this full game developed, we're probably looking at about, if we get that full funding, the dream, I'd say maybe about a year and a handful of months. It would be my kind of victory when the full game would be done. That's just kind of based off the current status we're at and kind of the development process we're going through. We do track. We all log our work on project management tools. We kind of can keep up with some of the analytics of like how long it's taken us to develop certain things, and we can kind of make some good guesstimations on other assets or other mechanics that we may need to design. Well, how long did this take and compare it? So we kind of got a number in the air, but this is, we're not 100% sure. It really does depend on that like funding and the time that we can get with that funding in general.
I will add on and say for sure because we're in the stage right now of publishers, like we're pitching our game. We have a budget. We know, what needs to actually be designed. One of the reasons why it's always like fluctuating is because we're operating under what we call a $0 budget. So it's just like free time that we can do. So if my artist says, hey, I'm going to get this done, but it takes them maybe like a month because they have either like some family issues or they have something else going on or whatever, that like makes it longer. So whenever we say if we were operating on a full capacity in terms of like budget, it's in terms of like, this is a 40-hour week job. This is what you're like working on, and what we usually present to our investors and publishers. Right now, with the current budget that our $0 budget, we're projecting to have the vertical slice completed by late next year. So around like between October and November. And that will be like the second iteration of like what you are seeing on Steam right now, the much more polished. And if we were able to get funding just for that part, that cuts it down by quite a bit because then people can take more time off work or like leave their jobs and work just solely on the project. And the number always fluctuates because people come, people go. But the pipeline has never really changed. We know what we're building. We know exactly what needs to be completed. Mm-hmm. It's literally just a matter of time and getting it done.
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, I asked because everything I know about game development I learned from watching Code Monkeys. You guys remember that animated show?
Awesome.
And Mythic Quest, which is a new show on Apple. So I asked, when you describe what you guys are doing, that's what I'm picturing.
Absolutely. So it's funny you mentioned Mythic Quest. I am striving to become Ian. That is who I'm striving to become.
Well, hopefully not everything about
not everything. Just the cool
But he
parts.
does have a lot of with the writing director. You have a lot of that energy too.
Everybody compares me to who is it? Who's the writer with the Nebula Award? I keep forgetting his name.
Oh yeah, F. Murray Abraham plays him.
Yeah. Everyone says
the energy this guy's got. He may want to be Ian, but he's definitely.
It's funny because when I first pitched the game to Nick, I'm like, "Here's the story." And I gave Nick this grand adventure. I'm like, "Here's how it's gonna play out." And Nick looks at me straight in the face, and he's like, "Nobody cares about the story. We just need to make a game." It broke my heart. I was like, no. And Nick's like, no, the story's good, but I don't care right now. I need to build this thing so that we can build it. So it's fun times.
Very cool.
So what are you've talked a little bit about the challenges, but for any new game developers or anyone looking just to build a RPG game for the first game.
Number one, don't.
Yeah.
Number one, don't do it.
Number two, don't.
Then I'm gonna rephrase.
Number three, refer to the first two.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Finish your original question because I will answer it.
No, well now I want to know what type of game should they go for first. What are the easier games? What are the easier games?
So I think that's a great question for any new game developer. What's a good idea for a game to start building? And there's this really interesting game. It's called Hexagons. I believe it's what it's called. And it's and all the gameplay is that it randomly spawns in these hexagon shapes with one side missing, and they just kind of shrink down towards the center. And you have this little ball in the center, and you just you can move any direction, but you have a limitation how far you can move. And that's the extent of the game. The YouTuber who made it, I reference him as Brackies. It's I'm going to build a game in 10 minutes. And he built that game in 10 minutes. That's a good starting place. Something on that level where it's something you put together in an hour. Game jams are really good ways to start as well, where you have a set time limit. And you have to find a game that's reasonable to build in that time. Something that's, very straightforward gameplay, very simple, maybe one mechanic at most. Because that's kind of the starting foundation. And that's one thing I learned in college was to kind of start building some of those foundational mechanics, and you build off of that to build these bigger games like an RPG where there's just so many variations of mechanics. So you build maybe a side scrolling game, you build a racing game, you kind of do stuff of that nature, just very simple, mostly setting up controllers. And that kind of gets you started to learn, and you'll ask questions and find these answers that will help you get maybe ideas to expand on more complicated games, like a fighting game or a RPG.
So what is, this is me. I'm a noob when it comes to all this stuff. So if I ask very basic questions, I apologize.
Sure.
But when it comes to building an app, like a phone game, right? And then a video game, why wouldn't you guys go that route? What if it is easier? Does that make sense?
For building that, I can answer that. All right. So here's the problem. My real job, my real full-time job is I work at Apple. So with that being the case, anything that I would attempt to build that is an app, even if it's not technically logged on my computer, there is a way that Apple could get it. There is absolutely a way.
It's unfortunate.
It's unfortunate, and it wouldn't.
And plus, you won't leave Apple.
I need money to live. I need to live right now. But in all sincerity, it's just it really is kind of on me. And it's just because we want to make sure that this game belongs to us. Nobody else can like lay claim or stake to it. And we've thought about the idea of making an app game and translating it. So it's definitely on our mind.
Well,
It's
what if
just
it's
something.
like an Android?
Yeah.
Even Android, Apple can lay claim.
Yeah,
to
they
it.
can actually lay. It doesn't matter what device you
They
put
can
it
lay
on.
claim to anything that
It's
their
an
employees
application.
develop.
That their
Oh.
employees develop as software. So
Yeah.
that's
I
why
remember signing that too.
yeah, that's why there's not even a Mac version of the alpha on Steam, specifically because we don't want any problems with Big Daddy Apple. Mr.
Right.
Tim Apple, please don't come hurt me.
Well, and there's also to add on to the question, even outside of that, I think there's the reason we went for this game was the fact we were able to recruit very well for having a larger team. Because a game like this, if you're don't have as much experience, like I did graduate with my degree in game development at Columbus State, so I do have some credentials there. And one of our other developers, our artist Rose that he mentioned earlier, also graduated there on the art side of things. And I think that we were able to recruit this team that was large enough that I think we were like, we can probably build a slightly bigger game. Yes, building the smaller game would get us that early representation for our company, but our company, like we all really just kind of were so into this story and this narrative that Quessy put together. I mean, that's really the driving force of why this game's getting built, is because of how good of a story we have planned for this. And I mean, it's just amazing. It really reminds me of like a Final Fantasy or
my heart.
Yeah, that's a beautiful comment.
That's some high praise.
That's too much praise. Now,
at least story wise, gameplay wise, I mean, we're still working on that.
We're still working on that.
We got some mechanics in there, but I mean, I think the story does hold up really well, and I think the overall grand picture that we have for this IP, I really think we just want to see it through, and we're willing to put in all our eggs in the basket. Me and a few of the other developers on the team currently, we've built smaller games already, so we kind of have some resources and tools and knowledge that we can kind of bring to the table. I think that's been able to help us develop such a big project. So.
One thing I will also mention, like, the reason why we're building episode Astraia, it's actually kind of an interesting take. When we first started designing like Zakumba, we're like, this is the game we want to build. We had completely different characters that we wanted to tell. And we realized after some point, this game's too big. Like, it's too big of a scope. There's so much that goes involved. There's too many routes, whatever. We need to like scope down and just like really boil and make something. But I am a very stubborn person, and I did not want to lose the story and the projection we were going. So what we did was, I like to call it a reverse DLC, where essentially in the main title of the game, you have an entire party that joins you on your quest to fulfill said end goal, right? No spoilers. So what we did instead was take all of the supporting cast that was inside of your party, and we decided to break them down and give them their own game as like a mini introduction to who those characters are. So in the main narrative, you have Astraia as a party member. She joins you. So I was like, well, what did Astraia do before she actually joined you? What was her story? Like, why does she exist? And so we decided to break it down. And that's how we came up with like Zakumba Astraia, because originally it was episode Astraia. Like, we're talking about her. And the ending of her game is the introduction to when she actually meets the characters in the main narrative. So that's how we've kind of started pipelining, where now that we can also build specific parts of like this character as well as the world, as we move on to next sections and each of the other supporting characters, we're slowly building the world as well as slowly building the mechanics. So we're still on track. We're just introducing the world to these characters, different abilities. And then by the time you get to the main narrative, we've already told you the story of these supporting cast. There's no need for you to like get a DLC to like know, oh, this is who this person was. And like we already physically have the world built, because we're just slowly in the Unity engine putting things together like as pieces. So that's kind of like how we broke it down in scope. And decided we still want to make an RPG. We have to start smaller. So let's focus on one character, tell their story, use all of what we've learned there to move on to the next character and the next, until essentially the Avengers form and then they save the world.
I was gonna. That's just while you were saying that, I'm like, you're building the Zakumba cinematic universe, basically.
That is correct.
I think it's appropriate that Astraia is like an engineer or like a tinkerer or whatever she is doing, building things and trying to fix the machines. Like she's the Tony Stark. She's one bringing us in.
Right.
She is the Tony Stark.
She is bringing us into this new universe. It's awesome.
And then you guys revealed the next character, Bella, right? Or Bells?
Bells is a character in episode Astraia. So it's not that like the next
she's going to be
she's going to be the partner. So one of the biggest things with the narrative that I'm not going to spoil it, but Astraia being independent and just like wanting to focus on like her own opportunities, she definitely doesn't get along with a lot of the other children in Zakumba in where she lives, because they have their own dreams and aspirations. And she meets a Bella, aka Bells, who kind of introduces her into a world of, I wouldn't say like mystery, but like a different path on how you can live your life. So, and this is like a friend that Astraia has never had, a best friend, you could say. And their entire journey that they have during the course as you play the game really is interesting for the dynamic between them, because they're so different. But at the same time, they're similar and they want to see the best out of each other. So Bells is a playable character, and there will be other playable characters within Astraia, but everything that we build up until that point is more just going to be bounced off into the next part of the larger narrative.
Yeah,
cool.
Okay. And I mean, and all the playable characters in here will still play a role in the main game. They are just,
Definitely.
they're going to be kind of the because we want to have like a team-based kind of tactics fighting game, or I guess combat system. So we have multiple different characters you can use during that experience. So
So this is a multiplayer game?
Or sorry, not multiplayer.
Single player game.
Single player game.
Okay, you can switch characters.
Parties.
You have multiple
characters.
Character. Yep.
Okay.
I apologize, battling on my end.
No, that's okay. It was a question that I wanted to ask, but I do have two questions. So one, how did you decide on Zakumba? Well, how did you just decide on the names? I'm very curious about that.
Okay, so I was born in Ghana, and when I came to the States, my dad was in college, my mom was, kind of like starting work, and we didn't have like a lot of, like I didn't have a lot of toys growing up, but there was a ton of paper around and colored pencils. So I built this African hero, right? This is before I heard about, Black Panther or like any of like the cool, black superheroes, because I didn't know anything. So, I made my own hero. His name was Zakumba, and he was the prince of Africa. And he just went around just like saving people and, defeating like a Fire Lord. This is before I knew what Avatar was too. But like he was he was just like a real cool character that I came up with. And it's also because like I didn't have a lot of friends growing up, so it was somebody that I wanted to personify. And specifically the name Zakumba, I can't really tell you where it came from. It just like came to me because it just, this is gonna sound bad, but it just sounded African, and I'm like, I like it, so I'm just gonna keep it. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what this character is, and it's just kind of been traversing over, and I've been boiling around this idea honestly since I was like 10, and it wasn't until I met Nick I'm like, all right, I want to like really like make this character, so let's do it. Let's figure it out.
Now it's a world.
And now it's a world.
It's a whole world.
It's a whole world.
That's great.
A whole new world. Sorry.
So Neil, as kind of the story, tell us a little bit about what you do as the story, kind of what your role specifically is, and then is that what you do also in your full-time job? Are you like a writer? Like how did you get into this work?
Yeah, that's a cool question. So my work, my day job right now, I teach English at the Rochester Institute of Technology, because I'm in Rochester, New York.
RIT.
It's a really great place, honestly.
I went there for a photo camp when I was in high school.
Oh, no way!
High school yearbook. So yeah, they paid for my Amtrak train ticket, which left Cleveland at 2 a.m. and arrived in Rochester at like I think 7. And I spent a week there at RIT. So
cool. Did you say it was a summer camp?
Yeah. It was like just a 1 week over the summer.
So you didn't have to come here in the winter. That's good.
Oh no, hell no.
So my day job, I teach English. And when I went and I got my my master's degree in writing in fiction from Ohio State. That's why I went to Ohio in the first place. And so I'm like working on a book in my own time. That's my own sort of big project.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's really fun, honestly. And one of the reasons when I picked the little slip of paper off the bulletin board back in 2016, if you had told me then, in 6 years you'll still be like working on the vertical slice, I think I would have been very confused, but and I think that Neil would have been disappointed probably. But the other truth is that like I kept doing this with Quessy because it was so fun. And so what I have found is that if Quessy comes to me with the proverbial dump truck of ideas, right, and I'm writing stuff down, I think that Quessy and I have a really good chemistry where as he's talking, I'm going, okay, so we've got a single dad, we've got this really independent, she's a genius, but she's a child at the same time, so there's a really interesting power dynamic going on there. And then she meets this other friend whose parents are kind of absent, so her friend has a different kind of independence. But her friend's brother, who's kind of the father figure, like is involved in organized crime, so it's a threat. And so I like seeing all the different moving parts of the story, and I like thinking about them in those terms. Okay, how can we leverage the tension a little bit more so that this scene moves just slightly faster? We need to introduce this character 3 chapters ago so that when they come in at this point, they need to be recurring instead of being introduced at the same time for the first time. So how to get all the sort of narrative energies to kind of funnel and point in a direction that feels like you're carrying the player forward, while at the same time gives them the sense that like anything can happen, that they're sort of being propelled. I think for whatever reason, my skill at that and my like interest in that works really well when Quessy is talking. For whatever reason, Quessy and I work really, really well together. So I'm good at going, oh well, Quessy, you mentioned this other thing 10 minutes ago. If you brought that detail in now, you could save yourself a little bit of work. You could introduce this thing earlier, etc. Stuff like that. So I'm kind of managing. Narrative editor is exactly the right name for my position, I think, because I'm taking all of this raw material and I'm trying to sort it into at least this single linear progression that hits upon all of the most exciting elements along the way. And so for me, the concern of I'm kind of liberated as opposed to Nick, or I feel liberated anyway, because I don't have to worry about how is this game going to function. I just want to make this one sort of story that pulls all the way through and that is really exciting, and that like talks about all the stuff we want to talk about. And then how it functions is kind of a secondary concern. Sometimes I think, Nick, sometimes when I'm talking to Quessy, I'm like, I hope I'm not giving this kid too much work. Like damn, I hope I'm not screwing him over.
That's awesome. Well, we often have authors on the show, so when you finish your book, you're gonna have to come back, and we'll talk to you about that. But the whole process is fascinating. I mean, I love to play video games, and so I've always, and I love to tell stories. So I've always kind of wondered like what's going on behind the scenes. And we watch these game awards. We actually just kind of co-streamed them a few weeks ago, and you see these teams come up there and they're accepting awards, and I'm meeting you guys at the convention. I talked to several of the other teams as well. It's just a fascinating process to think about all the stuff that goes into that. And how long it can take to do that, especially when you guys are working independently like you guys are, instead of obviously for a major
publisher.
Thank you. Yeah, who like they have this entire team who that's their full-time job is to focus on this game, go do it. And it's like, well, that's how we get those out.
Not
every few years or whatever. But that's something that I'm sure you're aiming for at some point. But I love that independent spirit. I'm a movie fan too, so independent movies have always been so it's really neat to hear this kind of behind the scenes story. We're sort of running out of time, so I want to make sure that we get to where you could tell people how they can support you, where they can find the demo, that kind of stuff. But before we do that, from the three of you that are here, what is your favorite video game to play?
Ooh. JRPGs all day long. I love JRPGs. That's literally one of the reasons why I wanted to make an RPG. I would say right now my favorite game of all time, and I will stand by these words. Persona 5.
You're gonna say Persona? Yeah.
Yep.
Persona 5, specifically Persona 5 Royal, because it is the best JRPG I have played that is just balanced so well.
It's incredible.
Looks
totally agree.
Good. It sounds incredible. And
Absolutely.
Like the story is like so multi-layered.
It's very deep.
I love it. I love it.
Yep. I'm right there with you. Both me and my son are huge Persona 5 fans. We're such big Persona fans. We even play those dancing games.
I did too. I have them.
Yep,
I have
the
plushies for them.
You've got the plushies.
Well, that'll be on Utah's little gadget corner.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have
next
to
week's
to
episode.
get those. Yeah, absolutely. No, but I totally agree. P5R is just fantastic.
I'm gonna have to get into that. I bought it for PlayStation.
Didn't you try?
I bought it for PlayStation, and I just could not get into it. I couldn't figure out what was going on. I was just so lost. And everybody. Well, no. I mean, people that I know that I love and respect and have just raved about it. And I'm like, there's something to this game. I gotta find out. I gotta find out what it is. And it was on sale, and it's still in my queue. It's another one that I'll get to eventually.
Listen,
I have a huge backlog.
You start playing that game, we're not gonna see you for like a month.
It really can suck you in.
I am eligible for sabbatical this year at my job. So maybe I'll just take a month off and play Persona 5.
Persona 5 sabbatical.
My wife would totally shoot me if that was what I used my sabbatical.
I don't know. It's a pretty valid reason, I think.
Yeah. So what about you other guys? What? Yeah.
Okay, so Questy went with an entire genre first, so I'll do that.
Well, then he narrowed it down to Persona. So
yeah, but then he named arguably the best JRPG, so it's okay.
You are a genius. You understand.
Anything that tries to nail the Dungeons and Dragons experience, I will try at least, and I love. I'm playing Pathfinder: Wrath of the Righteous right now, absolutely loving it. Pillars of Eternity. Divinity Original Sin, the sort of party-based dungeon crawler, not quite dungeon crawler, party-based RPGs. That's what I want. Dragon Age, loved Dragon Age.
I was gonna say,
I love the Dragon Age games.
Mass Effect was great. Anything that copies, anything that tries to emulate the Dungeons and Dragons experience, because Dungeons and Dragons is my favorite game. Definitely, it's incredible. Skyrim would be on there. My first tattoo was the quest marker from Skyrim. I don't know if you see
nice.
that.
Look at that.
Yeah, my girlfriend's a tattoo artist, so I had the idea one day, and then I had the tattoo.
There you
go. That works really well.
And I will pivot into the only other thing I wanted to say, which was we were talking earlier about like what advice would you give to a really young person who wants to start making their own game or whatever. It will take so much longer than you think. And that's cool. That's great. It's super. If it stays fun, then keep doing it. But
it's okay.
The only people who get it done, I think, are the ones who there's a kind of tenacity you need, but to be able to continue to find fun in it is so important.
Yep,
that's awesome.
Good advice,
Nick.
And Nick,
yeah. What about you?
Yeah, no, I mean, I like RPGs as well.
I'd say Pokemon.
Pokemon. I mean, I've been playing that since I was 4. Pokemon has been my thing. I play competitive as well. Like I'll play at some tournaments.
Oh wow!
Every now and then.
Wow.
I am so into it. It's insane. But although I will say that one game that really caught my attention that has just really like opened my eyes to like the possibilities of gaming, I'd say it was like Ghost of Tsushima. That game's
It's so
gameplay
good.
That game is
so
amazing.
phenomenal. The mechanics are just perfect, and I need to sit down and play through it a couple more times because like that game was just so beautiful and just so well put together. I love that game,
and not just the mechanics. It really speak to the
story.
Story too.
It's one of the first video games that I actually like got choked up and cried during, like when when a certain character. I like I was like attached. Yeah. Or oh god, don't even get me started on that one. That was don't see now that's a spoiler though.
Yeah, we gotta be careful with the spoilers. But
that's true.
The game is, and also I think what's really fascinating about the game is the kind of way they also allow you to play through it. Because the reason I want to play through it again so bad is so I can play it in that kind of like black and white traditional Japanese style mode.
And I Kurosawa mode.
Yeah. I want to play through that just to experience that. I'm really excited to do it. Because I played it without that at first. I was like, I'm just gonna play with the colors and all that because I'm already bad at like reaction time with games and seeing stuff. So I'm not gonna make it too hard on myself. But I definitely want to go through and play a lot with that filter on. And again, just the way they build out the mechanics with like these different stances and the way that you fight, it's so awesome. It was very enjoyable.
Yeah, it's incredible. Definitely one of my Game of the Year nominees back when it's still an amazing game. And I haven't even played because they released that Iki Island expansion in the director's cut.
I gotta play that too.
Which I haven't. Yeah, I haven't even started. And it's funny because for the past couple of years, my son, who's now 18, but my son would hear me rave about Ghost of Tsushima, rave about it like nonstop. And you're like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, but it's Japanese. It's got samurai. It's an amazing story. These are things that you like. This is my son who loves Persona, so I'm like, come on. He finally got the game and started playing it this week, and he finished it.
Yeah,
he was so sucked in.
It'll suck you in.
He couldn't stop, and then and every so often I look over and it's like, so do you understand now? He goes, I totally understand.
Exactly. I was a week. As soon as I got home, I was like, I'm home now. It's time to start playing with Tsushima. I'm hungry, but I'll deal with that later. I gotta play right now.
Right. 8 hours later, you're like, oh
crap! Now I gotta go to bed. It's fine. I'll just grab a snack and go to bed real quick. Stay up too late and not get any sleep. I became a night owl when I started playing that one.
So excellent games.
Yes, they are. Those are some good choices. And I knew figured Pokemon was in there. You guys mentioned it earlier, but
it kind of started the whole thing.
Before we go, tell everybody where they can find your. So if they want to support this process, are you still doing Indiegogo? Is that still open? How can they get involved, or even try out the demo?
Yeah, so the demo itself, it is all Windows based right now, but you can get it for free on Steam. It is our proof of concept. We just pushed our last update on it just for some quality of life issues. So that's kind of done. You can play it right now. In terms of our funding, we closed out our campaign, so it's no longer open. But here next year, around like February, we are going to be opening up a store that's going to have some cool swag that you can buy, like shirts, stickers, buttons, stuff like that. So definitely keep an eye out. Our website, we also try to update that as regularly as we can. And then if you follow us on any social media platform, literally Afroduck Studios. The day that we got the name Afroduck for our domain, I went to every single social media. It didn't matter what it was. I'm like, Afroduck Studios done. Afroduck Studios done. Afroduck Studios done. So,
very smart.
So we're pretty much everywhere. Follow us mainly Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Those are the big three that we use. And we also, we have a Discord server.
Hey,
if you go, I don't know if it's possible to share it in here, but on our website, there should be a link that goes to our Discord server. We call it the Pond, and it's basically where we try to post updates. Oh yeah, it's great. I come up with all of these names, guys. Just like I'm a great name maker.
He is.
It's great. But you can find us there, and we're pretty much like everywhere we can. A lot of our time is spent on development, and I'm the one that does the social media, but I'm really terrible at it. I don't understand social media. I'm trying, but you know,
I get
and
we're gonna see.
TLDR, we're still new in the Discord server, like kind of figuring out our niche in there and whatnot. But definitely check it out. I mean, all our developers, are there, and we are trying to find a way to kind of start sharing the development process for anybody who is interested in game development and seeing how that kind of goes on in the back end. And anything you can see a lot of things on there before you'll see them on our social media or anywhere else. So.
And we're pretty responsive. So if you're like trying to get into development and you have a question, somebody would be super happy to talk with you. That'd be cool.
Oh yeah,
that's awesome.
Oh yeah,
I might just ask questions about opinions of games and stuff.
Sick. We'd be happy to have you.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you guys so much for being here and sharing with us. We're going to have you guys back next year around this time to see where you are in the process, especially if your vertical slice is ready to go. We got to try to schedule and kind of hear what's going on now and what's awesome. The next step. Because I think this is interesting. I love following this story. So we need to stay in touch. Thanks for sharing your time with us, guys.
Yeah, thank you for having us. We had a lot of fun with this. Was our first podcast ever, so you guys.
We appreciate it.
Absolutely appreciate it. You guys knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Sick.
So this week we don't have a 90-second geek rant again because nobody left anything. So here's the thing, guys. People who are listening to our show, if you're listening on a podcast right now, or if you're watching on YouTube, we want to dedicate the last kind of 90 seconds of the show here to something. Well, it's more than 90 seconds. Because we talk about it after, but we're going to give you 90 seconds to give us kind of your opinion, rant about something. Maybe you're excited about something.
Or
maybe you want to, rave. Maybe you want to complain. Maybe you want to, I think I always use this example. You want to argue with me about whether or not Die Hard is a Christmas movie. I will die on that hill.
Die on the Die Hard hill.
The only thing I will not is Derek Mabel is if you mention anything about that team up north, that will not make it on the show. He put
allowed for this year.
What? I appreciate that he watched. So I'm gonna put it up.
One of my best friends. Sorry.
That's what he said, and it's okay. No, he's I'm putting it up. We don't gatekeep football fans.
No. You can say that this year.
But congratulations this year. We'll see you next year. But no, I want to hear from you. We want to be able to share your opinions with people too. We want you to be a part of this show. So speakpipe.com/worldgonegeek. If you've got any kind of opinion and you can, get it out in a coherent way in 90 seconds, do that, please. We would love to play it right here at this point. I would even play this really cool sound bite.
Do we have an intro?
It's time for the 90-second Geek Rant.
There we go. And then you would start talking and it would be like, so you're like a part of the show. We would love for you to do that. So please, 90 seconds to have your voice heard in a World Gun Geek. We'd love for you to do that. Special thanks again to Afroduck Studios for being here with us. And thanks as always to my partners in crime, Utah and Aaliyah. Thank you for being here.
We're waving.
We are not here next week. Next week, we are taking the holiday off. So enjoy the holidays with your families, everybody. We appreciate you guys listening to us all year and being a part of the show. We will be back on the 2nd, January 2nd, with our good friends from Promptly Written podcast are going to be here. We talked to Ian. We talked to Ian a few weeks ago. He's an author and he does this podcast with a friend of ours named Matt. We're going to talk about that podcast. It's going to be lots of fun. And we have something special and fun to announce with them of something that we're doing together next year.
We do.
So that's going to be a lot of fun. Okay. So all that to say, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Twitch. We're World Gone Geek, pretty much everywhere you decide to get social. So get social. And we're growing our Patreon account. So check that out at patreon.com/worldgonegeek. We're trying to start making some swag. We're going to have some special behind the scenes and special broadcasts that only patrons will get. So check that out there.
Come join me as a patron.
You can join as low as $5 a month. So please, we'll see you guys on January 2nd next year.
Go see Spider-Man.